Welcome to another episode of Coaching Outdoors today, and we're going over to Yorkshire today, and we're really pleased to have as our guest today, Maria Dove. Welcome, Maria. And I wonder, Maria, if you wouldn't mind in a few brief sentences, giving an introduction to yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hello, my name's Marie Dove, and I am a nature-based women's life coach. So I work with women using nature in a beautiful woodland and supporting women to live a life of deeper meaning, connection and purpose through the natural world.
Love it. I am so excited. Sitting in circle has been something that I have discovered in the last 4 or 5 years and found to be absolutely transformative. So I am really intrigued to hear your story and how you have your work. I think to be outside around a fire, just magical. But anyway, I digress. As we always kickstart our podcast episodes with this question, it's just a really nice kind of settling in, and we find out a little bit more about you. So what is your earliest memory of being outdoors, and why do you enjoy the outdoors so much?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Cumbria, so beautiful area of England, and behind my house there was this gorgeous woodland and fields, and all my memories are just hours and hours in that space. And when I think back to that time, I always think about how it felt in the different seasons. So the seasons are really ingrained in me, and I loved playing out in the fields in the snow, but then also like the long grass in the summer, and the smells and the feeling, the cold and the hot, and just like all of the different experiences of that time and the different seasons. But also there was a tree there that I loved, an oak tree, and it's still there. So when I visit my family, it's like I can still go to that tree, and it was like a beautiful big oak tree, and I used to climb it all the time, sit in it, and as I got older and a teenager, I'd go and spend some time to just kind of escape from the world there. And but when I was really little, it was like, for me, it was the faraway tree. I absolutely believed that if I could get to the top of that tree, that I would go to a different land, and it was just magical. And yeah, so I was just really fortunate to have that space behind my house, and of being of the generation that you could go for hours and it was okay. Nobody worried about where you were.
Fantastic. Oh, that's so, honestly, Maria, that's and that connection back for many of our listeners and watchers, we see how that beautiful, back to your childhood and just, connection with nature and the seasons. It's so, you almost transported me to that tree. It was lovely. Really, really nice. And, it's lovely to evoke those feelings, as you know, in both our coachees and ourselves, and connect. So that's lovely. So perhaps moving on can you give us a bit more background about your coaching sort of backstory, and that probably, and then a little bit more detail around sort of how you became a coach and started to work outdoors?
Yeah, well, how I came to coaching was through the outdoors. So my background is social work. I was a social worker for years, and I always knew right from being very small that I wanted to work with people. So I picked my social work degree when I was 14. I studied and worked with people, but I came to coaching through nature, through coming back to my connection to nature myself. So I was very stressed, found social work quite challenging. I kind of felt I'd lost a bit of meaning and purpose in my own life. My original reasons for going into social work, I didn't really feel like were being fulfilled. So I left my role because my partner had his own business running woodland adventures for children. So he got really busy and needed some help. So I left my job and I decided to do the admin and just see what happened. And he was able to secure this beautiful piece of woodland to run his sessions from, and I started to help him there. And it was like so amazing for me to just come back to nature. I had really lost all of that deep connection that I'd had all my childhood. I'd walked away from it for years and lost a part of myself. And it was so intuitive. I was standing in the woodland one day, and it was like this: you need to be here. You need to bring your experience, and you need to run groups. You need to do something here. And then I retrained as a life coach, and that's where it all began for me. So all of my coaching has been in the outdoors from the very beginning. I did some mentoring in one of my last social work roles, but my actual coaching has always been in the woodland, really. So yeah.
Really good.
That is so unusual. Having spoken to a number of coaches, this journey and the evolution as a coach and your identity as a coach, and having that at the heart from the very, very beginning is unique. That's so special. And just hearing you describe, sometimes the serendipity of life, what emerges, you just don't know. And the opportunity for you to have this amazing piece of woodland. I really want to come and visit. It sounds
Yeah, absolutely
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's funny how that happened. And when I'm doing it, it's so aligned with who I've always been. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, how did I just done? How did obviously my husband, when we met, he wasn't working in the outdoors. It all just came to this space, to this place now. And I have to pinch myself to, I'm so grateful for this, that I was brought back to where I started, I guess.
It just sounds so aligned, so authentic, so real. And sometimes things emerge that you just don't know, and that is that deeper intuition. And sometimes, when you describe stood there and this it came to you, where did that manifest itself from? And your website is beautiful, the way that you've kind of crafted it and the way that you present your offerings, and on that you say that in a nutshell you help your clients discover their inner nature. And would you be able to just dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually really hard to put into words, because for me, it was all built on this feeling. It was built on my experiences and what I feel. But I know that when we're in nature, all of the layers and all of the things that the stresses and everything that we hold on us in the world, and all of the looking outside of ourselves for fixes and answers and validation and everything, when we're in nature, that falls away. And so we're able to, because we come back into our body, we come back into the moment, because everything around us is completely natural. It's completely, I guess I feel like it's just completely part of us, really. So it's like when all those layers fall away, we're almost back in touch with that true part of ourselves, our intuition, our hearts, I always think, I always call it the sixth sense as well. So we have our five senses that we tune into in nature, but when we go beyond that, we have those feelings of perspective or feeling of awe. It's possibility, I think, is another word as well that I feel a lot in nature. But it's we're tuning back into we're more aligned, I guess, with our true self. And we start from that place, we can then feel more, actually, this is what I want for my life. Actually, this is where I find meaning, or this is my purpose. This is these are my values. So when I work with women, it's spending some time just actually, let's just move all of these I should be this way or I've been reading all the latest books, or doing watching all these things to be a better person. It's like, let's just move all of that away. Let's just take in the environment, explore what's around us, come back to our bodies, come back to ourselves. Then we'll settle in that place, and we'll think about, what do you want for your life? What's working for you? What would you like your life to look like? And just really bringing, that's what it means for me, really.
Yeah, that's Maria. I love, and just listening to you, I was really, that groundedness, kind of that word was coming up for me, the way that you're creating that space that people can ground, and the other word that came as you were talking was, it seems as though you're just bringing a sense of clarity for them, and cleaning away a lot of that sort of noise, and that's that. I love your point of nature is almost within us. We are nature, and we talk a lot to many of our guests about just this whole kind of connecting, and, as you say, grounding and being part of nature. But I love that almost seventh sense where you're saying, there is that, and and I know I've experienced that, and my many of my coachees and stuff, is that there's something else going on here. And I don't know, I've always felt there's something primeval. We're back to where we should be. Yes. And that's what was really coming through strong in your answer towards that, which is really lovely. I absolutely, you took me there very much. That was brilliant. So just taking that on a little bit, can we just explore, and how are your clients experiencing what sort of, it's always really lovely for our listeners and watchers to sort of hear perhaps your experience of what you witness within your coachees and the people attending your circles. Could you expand that out?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, really. I think the circles particularly, I've been so fortunate that, I mean, some of the women that have been coming for 4 years, so they have this like deep connection to the space in the same way that I do, to the woodland and also to the circle. But just being able to witness like the changes and the deepening connection over that time has been really, for me, a huge privilege. And also, it's not, it's equal for me as well. I know they have been able to witness me change through that time as well, which feels lovely for me as well. But I think what I'm seeing is a deeper connection to themselves, more confidence, really, to be able to express how they feel about things, or what are their opinions or ideas, and being able to take that out of the space and into their life. I think a greater sense of self is definitely achieved, and like being able to go into life being more secure in who you are, because you've been heard and you've been listened to and you've been accepted and validated, is something really important. So that's definitely something that is very clear: deeper connection, deeper sense of self, and also a different relationship, I think, with the natural world as well. I think that it's been really nice that the ladies that I coach all come to circles, they love the woodland, and they have a real connection to the woodland, and that, I think, goes out into their life as well. And one of the things that I do in one-to-one coaching particularly is talk about what kind of nature do you feel most drawn to, and how can you bring that more into your life, because I know what that is for me, and I know that if I'm feeling a certain way, I can access a different state much more quickly from connecting with that particular aspect of nature. So seeing that happen in the people I work with as well is amazing, because they're able to more quickly state change, deal with stress through connecting with nature. So it has huge impacts. But I think for me the most amazing is that deeper sense of self definitely.
It's so powerful, this connection to nature, connection to self. And we've become so disassociated, almost divorced from our natural environment. And through that, we become disconnected and disassociated with ourselves as human beings. Ultimately, we are human beings. And this invitation that you are extending to, you know, your one-on-one clients or your women through these circles is very much that ability to step back into nature. And because it's our status quo, we're not really aware of it. Well, it's just normal. We spend our time indoors. We're surrounded by four walls. This is the way that we live. And actually, how healthy is it for us on so many different levels? So it would be great to get like specific. Our listeners and watchers love like a bit of a fly on the wall insight into like, well, what goes on? Like, I know, describe where you are, talk us through one of the circles, like bring it to life. It would really just mean so much if we could just glean a little bit more about your work.
Yeah, lovely. It's really hard to know kind of where to start. I do so many different things, and again, everything I do comes from my feeling, an idea that I usually experience whilst out in nature. I feel that sense of excitement, and then I think, oh, this is gonna be great, we're gonna do this. But I guess I've brought it all together in the last maybe year, 2 years, where I'm feeling that I've got like more of a clear sense of how things are. And so now always I mark the solstices and equinoxes in circle, and it is incredibly powerful in ways I couldn't have really imagined. And I feel that for myself and my experience of that, and I'm thinking it's the same as well from the feedback that I've had from my ladies that come, is that marking those moments in the year and understanding them allows us to have a deeper connection with the cycle of life in general. It helps us to accept that we need to let go of some things, and that death and like difficulties are part of life, and how can we winter them, how can we cope with them, and then things are reborn in the spring, and that change is inevitable. Like, so we're connecting more with loss, but with growth, with change, and we're developing a deeper acceptance of the cycle of life through these marking these moments of the year. But when we come together in circle, what's so nice about them is they have this really special and very different feel depending on which one it is. So winter solstice has a really different feel to summer solstice, but what tends to happen is I create a circle. The circle will always have the campfire in the center. I will always decorate the circle in accordance with the season of the year. So we just had the spring equinox and we had daffodils around the circle. And then I will create, I love the idea and the feeling of ceremony, that ancestral feel, which is new to me, is something that I brought in through researching and understanding the equinoxes and solstices, but I just changed these or created these ceremonies based on what felt right. So we'll do some opening words around nature, around connection, around the time of the year. We'll have reflection, a time for go around the circle, express what you're feeling around this season, what's happening within you. I'll do so in spring equinox I did some journaling prompts to bring about growth, and then we did seed planting ceremony at the end. We took all of the, it was quite interesting how it worked out, because we were able to bring to the circle all of the difficulties of the winter and get them out and express them, and then move past them and think about how do the difficult moments in our life, how do the winters of our life become the food for our growth? And that was just a really lovely way of reframing some of these moments that we just find so difficult, like grief, loss, mental health, things like that, that we can experience. How do we take that and learn from it so that we can grow from it? And so actually having like a physical ceremony where we took the soil and we felt the soil and put that in all together into a collective big pot, because I thought actually having a group planting session feels so much more connecting than us all taking home our little seeds. So we put we all held the soil, put the soil in, we all made a wish on our seeds and expressed what we would like to grow. We put them into and then we watered them, and it's become this lovely, it's going to become this like communal pot of all of our difficulties, but also all of our wishes and hopes and dreams. And then I will take that back when hopefully they've all grown to the summer solstice. So that's the kind of idea of what happens. It's about I guess it's about seeing the cycles of nature within ourselves, and being able to tie those two things together is just very powerful. And when it happens in circle, it's safe, it's secure, it's supported, and it's just very real, I think. Yeah,
that's lovely. I think Maria, what was really coming out for me is for our listeners too particularly, is this psychological space that you're creating, and I think we really shouldn't sort of play that the way that you're creating that space with nature. I love the way you were saying you know, so the wood is there because that's nature, but you dress it and you kind of almost create that space that is that you're holding that space for your circle. And there is something really, really nice about that. And again, our listeners, can't underplay the fact that, you are holding that space for people to feel it's okay for me to, reflect and journal and release. And I think that's really lovely. And I love this thing you were saying, feed and nourish from the seasons, the way you're linking nature to their lives. And so what does this season mean for us? We're in the period of spring, and everything's nourishing and it's growing, and there's something that was just fantastic. And I mean, is there for our listeners one of your early specific tools that really, techniques that led you into sort of something that you would recommend, and you would sort of say, this is something that really helped
around? So for like
circle, the circles, or anything, the way you're holding that space, or
it's funny again with the circle. I didn't realize when I set up circles that circles were an actual that circle. I mean, I knew that ancestrally, our ancestors met in circle, but I'd never been to a circle. I had no sense of what a circle was. So the whole idea of my circle came from, I called it originally the Campfire Community. And that's where all of my other circles have grown from. So the Campfire is my original circle that is still running, and it's a monthly meetup for women. So I didn't actually call my circles in the beginning. I set up the Campfire Community, and that was, I just wanted a monthly space for women to come together in nature. I didn't really know what it was going to look like, and that's evolved. And it's only been really in the last couple of years that I've found out more about like wisdom circles and circles and what kind of things happen in them. So originally it was all just like, I'm just going to put this and see what happens. But I mean, now I like resources around the Wheel of the Year. So I've read a few books about the Wheel of the Year and understanding the more ceremonial aspects of it. I think trying to think of the name of a book, but there is one called The Wheel of the Year that is very good, but I can't remember the name of the lady. But yeah, I'm very much have a feeling, put it out there type. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of a go-to place really for information. But I think now circles are so like they're everywhere, aren't they? So I think you can probably find courses even on how to run them, I imagine. Yeah.
And circles are just, for me, when I discovered them, it was it's like a revelation. But it was also a bit like a coming home. And I find it so different to, almost we've been schooled in our education system, which is very kind of parent-child. And that's them taken into the office environment with a hierarchy, and actually to sit in circle, to be equal, to be heard, to listen. It's such a different relationship, and it is so much needed within our world at the moment. And it's having been a part of it and having seen it, for me, it's been in a yurt. It's been in kind of more of a hall. I haven't done one outside yet, that I would absolutely love to. And it's actually something I've taken into my facilitation work. And there's a really beautiful poem, which is by a lady called Cammy McBride, that I was introduced to by the circle leader, circle host of one of the circles I used to go into on a monthly basis. And it starts off, the circle is a healer, and I think that really just kind of sets it off, a place in which to be authentic, trusting, safe, caring, available, vulnerable, and open to change. And it continues, and I'll pop the link in, and you might like to check out, Marie.
Definitely.
I use it for just facilitation at workshops, starting in a circle and using it within the corporate environment, which it sets the tone very differently to the way that the rest of the day unfolds. And I think actually having that slightly different dynamic can really help open up conversations with others and with ourselves, which ultimately as coaches is what we want to be doing.
I think that's so true. And you've really, like, linking that back to your question, Paul, really about like resources. I think that's something, if you're thinking of doing something like this, is to really think about it's that starting point, isn't it? It's about differentiating like your life in the outside and your life in the circle. Like, so I mean, really the format for that, for a circle, is the opening, and then whatever you decide to do within that, and then the closing. Because I think that when we, like, having some words like that at the beginning are so important, because it's like when we arrive with the busy mind, we arrive with whatever's happened. So we need to do something to mark the beginning of this circle. This is from this moment. All of that stuff is not here, and we're in this circle, and it's a sacred space really. And let's open it so that we can be really present. And I think that's really important. And one of the reasons other than being in nature, one of the other reasons I created the Campfire Community and wanted to run circles was to have a deeper sense of unity. Because I feel that the world is divided. I feel that we need to see people be beneath their opinions, and we need to connect on a deeper heart, more of a heart level. And I think that when we meet people on that heart level, we can accept their differing views a lot more easily than if we just have a mental debate. So I think the world needs that. I think that we need to step out of this constant, like, I will not, like, you're not in my circle because you believe this and I believe that. It's like, no, who are you? Like, we ultimately, like, we all want to feel connected, we all want belonging, we all want to be happy. So for me, some of these views and opinions are just grasping this system, this outside world. for our happiness, but it doesn't come from there. So we need to meet people at that deeper level to create this a better world, really.
Yeah, well, that's, Maria, I think that's really lovely. And what I think is really coming across for me with the work that you're describing is that you were saying there's something very intuitive about, you know, I've noticed several times you've mentioned what it starts from a feeling, it starts from something you've experienced. And I think that's really lovely for our listeners to hear, that maybe don't overcomplicate your approach. You know, if there's this intuition, this feeling, and it works for you, why not go with it, you know, and explore it? And you know, the real art of yourself then is that intuition turns into that space that you hold. But that's really coming over for me to, you know, in our conversation today, is this lovely feeling of intuition. And don't be frightened to sort of try something and step into that space, which is really, really, it's fantastic. And, you know, so in terms of, I mean, how do our listeners, you know, get in touch, or, you know, find out about you and more about your work? Perhaps you could just tell our listeners how to get in touch and find out a bit more about you.
Yeah, I'm terrible at social media, which I guess, yeah, it's I know it has its uses, but I'm not great with that. I'm so a bit old-fashioned. So the best thing is just my website, really. And you know, I love a chat. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with somebody on the phone, if they want to know more about what I do. If you like, I always say to people, if you like the sound of what I do, if you resonate with me, then I know you'll love coming, or I know I mean, I do a lot of work online as well. Like, it does work online, unbelievably, but it does. So even if you're not local, I'm more than happy to have a call with you, just talk through my approach. But my website is the best place to find me, really. Yeah, and I am on LinkedIn as well. And that's it. Yeah.
And it's interesting, and I think it's a really important point around our work as coaches, is part of this business development piece, and social media is, you know, potentially a part of it or not, and it doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't have to. And you know, I've had a number of conversations with coaches who are kind of moving into finding their niche and testing it out, and actually social media as a tool, how much is it used or not? And some people have almost like a physical repulsion towards it. And it's like, well, if it's not part of your natural style, then who you are, okay, well, what other avenues are possible? And it really sounds like, you know, within your area, you've really carved out this niche where, you know, word of mouth and just going and doing what you're doing, things spread, messages get through. And you don't have to be all over social media. So it's very much kind of coming back to you and being in alignment again, and being authentic to your true self, and doing what fits. So, you know, just for our listeners and watchers, and I know a lot of people are watching and listening, they're kind of keen to get into coaching outdoors, and how do they set themselves up? And, you know, social media for some is a huge tool. And again, what can you learn from that? But there's no right or wrong. It's whatever works for you. No, thank you.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add as well, there's some, for our listeners and watchers, go onto your website, Marie, check out, there's some beautiful images on there. I went on it, you know, the website that you've got there, the images of the wood, the way the blankets, the chairs are set out, it's just a circle. Please check it out. You really have got some lovely, beautiful images on there. And yeah, it speaks of your feeling and your intuition. So yeah, really good.
Thank you.
And being in circle, again, it is different. And, you know, question to the listeners and watchers, you know, have you sat in circle? And I know this is very much focused on women's circles. One of our previous episodes with Joe Thomas, he very much talks about more of a male circle, the Mankind Project. It is more connected to kind of shadow work, archetypes. So again, you know, slightly different, but each has their own style and vibe and feel. So there is so much variety out there. And if you've not tried it, then I definitely recommend you know, finding one, testing it out, going along, seeing what it's like and seeing kind of what comes up for you, because it's a different way of being in relationship with yourself, with others, with nature. And it's a really reflective, restorative place to recharge, and particularly when you are in service of others, which we are as coaches, as facilitators, having that space to pause, to stop for you is so needed. But Marie, before we wrap up, anything that we've not kind of touched on that you'd like to share, whether that's around your one-on-one coaching, your vision for the future, just anything that we haven't dived into? I'd love just to give you the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking when we were talking about resources as well, I was thinking about one-to-one, like I think maybe just touching on the importance of that outdoors as well, like how amazing that can be, and for our clients, and having the confidence to start to integrate, because I think, you know, there's a difference between coaching in nature and coaching with nature, which is something that I've experienced, and certainly up until actually quite recently, I've coached outdoors, sitting around the fire, and it's lovely, and we settle, but of late, like over the last few years, I've found the courage to take the coaching out into the woodland in a deeper way, and encourage exploration and, you know, nature connection practices. And whereas perhaps at the beginning we can feel a bit like, will our clients like that? Will it seem a bit weird? And again, that came for me, the confidence to really develop that and to trust that in myself came from deepening those practices within myself and really knowing and understanding how much they benefit. And I think that being able to have experienced them yourself allows you to know and have trust and confidence that they will work, and also obviously working with the client around what they're comfortable with trying. But it really gives a different feel to the coaching session I've experienced. And maybe, if you know, by starting off with some opening of the senses and exploring the woodland, where do you feel drawn to? And then quite often, if a client's got a burning question, I'll leave them with that question and ask them to take it to nature and then bring it back in, and then we'll finish round the fire. And it's a really nice way of getting a deeper session, I think, because we need to come into our bodies a bit more, don't we, with coaching, and that can work online as well, you know. So I loved your question at the beginning. That's quite similar to some of the things I will do, you know, around what part of nature do you feel drawn to, and getting somebody into that feeling allows you to drop in. And so, yeah, just to say that, you know, it's really a lovely thing to do, is to coach with nature. So to experiment with that is great, really. Yeah.
Marie, Marie, that's so nice in terms of our listeners, and I think you've defined that so beautifully for people to kind of even explore that. You know, a lot of my coaching tends to be with nature. I haven't done so much. I haven't sat in a circle, so you know, I'm somebody who yet. I've done, you know, and I think for our listeners, I think you beautifully just, you know, defined that to help everybody you know. So we do with nature, but then we can be you know, in nature as such, and they are two very different approaches, and they have their own benefits, as you rightly, you know, defined. But I thought you did that was really fantastic, and just to get people to think a little bit about, you know, using that. But I love the fact that you then could kind of come back to the campfire and using that deeper work. So yeah, thank you for that. That was beautifully done.
Thank you. Yeah, and then visions for the future, really. I think I mean, this isn't necessarily something that I will do, but I think maybe I will, I don't know. But I have this sense of mixed circles being important, actually. I really have this sense that we are doing some of this work on ourselves, and maybe stepping back into like our own understanding of who we are around our masculinity, our femininity, but also there's this need for the healing between masculine and feminine, and bringing a deeper understanding of each other back. You know, divorce rates are really high and all of these things, and I have this really lovely image of like being able to more deeply understand each other, like together, all of us. So yeah, maybe one day that might happen. I'm kind of looking for a male coach in the area who might be the right fit. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. It came to me a few weeks ago, and I don't know. I'll sit with that. It might never happen, but it's a nice thought. I think it's just that healing on every level for all of us. Really. Yeah.
And the world will offer you one up. Sorry, the world will offer you one
I've
up.
said it now.
Sure.
Put it out there now, so it's going to happen. Yeah.
Listeners and watchers, anyone in the York area who's a male coach who's open to, you never know.
No.
Oh, thank you so much. It has been a really revealing. It's a different way, and clearly you've got your one-on-one coaching, but circles, again, it's not something that we've discussed. And it's been a real pleasure being able to get to know a bit about you and your work within this area, and this whole linking back to nature and cycles and being sat around a campfire. It's like it's beyond words. And I think that for me, as I kind of move away from our conversation today, it is for you, you're just seem so intuitive. It's all about feelings. And actually for our listeners and watchers, bring it back to your feelings and your experiences. And what do you notice? What are you drawn toward? What attracts your kind of deep attention and resonates with you on an intuitive level? So thank you so much, Marie, for your time and sharing your knowledge, and I hope genuinely to meet you in person one day and to sit in circle with you. And anyone who's interested in this type of work, something a little bit different, go and find a circle, test it out. I know there's some outdoors, there don't seem to be many outdoors, so again, that could be something as a coach that's within your area. If there's not, and you're interested in moving towards kind of circle work, it could be something that you're interested in maybe setting up within your area. There is definitely need for more, even though they have grown, and there's definitely room for more. But thank you for taking the time to join us, whether you're listening or watching from wherever you are in the world together today. We're on a mission through this podcast to encourage people to take their practice, into nature and work with nature, whichever way works best for you. And undoubtedly that will change and grow as coaches. We're all growing and evolving day by day, year by year. We have got a treasure trove of previous interviews for you to dive into if you haven't already. So please do take some time to check out the rest of the podcasts on our website. And our LinkedIn community is growing as well at this point, which is April 23. We are nearly at 900. I'm hoping for the big 1,000, and we will have some form of celebration. So watch that space as to what that will be. But if you know anybody who might like this podcast and benefit from it, please do share across your networks. We do really want to get more of a global reach so we can spread the word and get more people connected to nature and to be moving in the outdoors. So thank you, Marie, once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you enjoyed what you've heard, like it, share across your network, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and LinkedIn community page, the Coaching Outdoor Podcast. Thanks so much in advance for your support.